is everyone's city, Washington, D.C. There is no other place in the world quite like Washington, D.C. If you listen closely, you might even hear the bell of liberty ringing or the muffled guns of freedom fired by men who died to create the panorama of beauty and justice we see today. Yes, this is everybody's city. Yours, mine, and the wide-eyed youngster who knows America as it is today and has yet to learn the glory of its yesterdays. It is a city of strength, a city of majesty, a city that is everybody's hometown and yet belongs to the world. Washington is a symbol for free men everywhere, but a symbol that lives and breathes and lifts your heart when you see it, just as it lifted the hearts of those who built it from a dream, just as it lifts the hearts of those who work to keep it strong today. Among the many dedicated who serve their nation is your United States Senator Everett Dirksen. The story we tell is just an average day in the life of your United States Senator as he serves the people of Illinois in the United States Senate. It is a day vastly different than those he spent as a young man in his hometown of Pekin, Illinois, where he was employed as a baker, or as a member of our armed forces at the time of World War I. Even his practice of law in his home state was never as demanding as his official duties now are in the United States Senate. As a member of the 73rd Congress, he entered the national political scene, only to retire on January 3rd in 1949 to undergo special eye treatments which subsequently saved his eyesight. Senator Dirksen returned to our nation's capital in January of 1951 as a United States Senator from the state of Illinois. If his career as an elected official of the United States government is to be characterized, I think two words best describe it: hard work. There are only 96 senators in the nation's capital. There are only 96 in the entire world whose duties encompass every facet of making a Republican form of government work on behalf of 160 million people. Senator Dirksen is an early riser, and much of each day's activity is outlined even before breakfast. Here in the quiet of the early morning, while most of the rest of the Capitol still sleeps, Senator Dirksen prepares his daily schedule and outlines in note form the tasks he will assign later in the day to his aides. The Senator breakfasts each morning while in Washington with Mrs. Dirksen, Luella. She, too, has a full day as a member of the Senate Wives Red Cross Committee, attending official receptions, informal gatherings, and social events. But even breakfast is interrupted by telephone calls which signal the beginning of constantly building pressures. And so the day's activities get underway. The Senator's ride to work in the morning is a comparatively short one. Those who arise and start early miss much of the turmoil and can therefore enjoy moments of the serene vistas of great government buildings, foreign embassies, historical shrines, and places of worship. The Senator joins Mrs. Dirksen in the car, and they are off down Massachusetts Avenue, more popularly known as Embassy Row. Here on the right, they approach and pass the stately British Embassy. Further down, and at the foot of the hill on the left, arises the minaret of the only Mohammedan mosque in the United States. The Senator's early morning trip to his office takes him through the cool vales of Rock Creek Park. Under its bridged archways, and coming up from beneath an underpass, we see the top of the Washington Monument. On this day, as on many others, Senator Dirksen must stop for a conference at the White House. Mrs. Dirksen drives him to the west entrance, where he is greeted by the ever-present guards charged with the security of the nation's chief executive. From the gate, he walks south to the executive wing of the White House, along a tree-lined drive shaded by historic trees placed there by presidents in the past who have served their nation. Leaving the White House, Senator Dirksen journeys on toward the Senate office building, passing the Department of Commerce, the Archives building, and now on the right, the National Art Gallery. On to Pennsylvania Avenue and up the steep hill to the Senate office building. Here the senator leaves Mrs. Dirksen and with a full briefcase climbs up the marble steps which lead to his office. As he arrives, his aides are ready for the morning work. Senator Dirksen's staff is loyal and experienced. All are intimately acquainted with the problems pertaining to the state of Illinois and to the nation. All are gifted in the operations of good government. Each morning, Senator Dirksen dictates his daily schedule to his private secretary, who in turn advises the staff of the senator's program for the day. Operating much as the chief of staff does, Mr. Goldman, the senator's administrative assistant, assigns the daily workloads to those best equipped to handle it. Later in the day, progress reports will be made to the senator personally, and he will then make his final decisions. A major burden in a day of the life of any senator is carried on at committee meetings. Much committee work is conducted in private or executive session. At other times, the press and the public have free access to these deliberations. On this particular day in the life of Senator Everett Dirksen, he confers with members of both political parties in a Senate hearing room. Attending this meeting is Senator Watkins, Senator Dirksen, Senator Langer, Senator Wiley, Senator Kilgore of West Virginia, who since died, Senator Olin Johnston, and Senator Daniel of Texas. Senator Dirksen is a member of the Senate Appropriations and the Judiciary Committees, and it is here that the senator's homework counts the most. For in the rigorous give and take debate on matters that affect the fate of all Americans now and in the future, those well acquainted with the intricacies of legislation are best qualified to render the decisions which will be lasting and just. Back in his office just before the Senate goes in session at noon, Senator Dirksen changes to a more formal attire, for he must meet with a foreign ambassador later on in the afternoon. Here is the United States Senate chamber, just before the bells ring to call the senators to the opening session, and the prayer by the chaplain of the Senate, the Reverend Frederick Brown Harris. The day's legislation has already been placed on each senator's desk by the Senate pages. Senator Dirksen sits in the front row at the third desk from the left. Here is the chair of the Vice President, Richard Nixon, President of the Senate, and above the press gallery. While the Senate deals with routine business, the senator has a quick lunch in the Senate dining room with Mrs. Dirksen. While out on the Capitol steps, a group of high school students from Illinois have arrived to visit the nation's capital. As is Senator Dirksen's custom, he always likes to meet with the young folks when they come to Washington. Therefore, he hurries through his lunch and meets them on the Capitol steps, suggesting to them various historical points of interest and shrines which he feels they should see while they're here in the nation's capital. But here is Senator Dirksen himself to tell us of some of the places of historical interest, just as he told the group of Illinois students. Senator Dirksen.
Every citizen of this country who can contrive it should see his nation's capital. It's steeped in tradition, it's fairly drenched in history, and frankly, it's not only the capital of the United States, but I believe by common consent in all sections of the world, it has in fact become the capital of the world. I say that to the groups who come to Washington, and very especially the student groups. I like to see them. The group that you see me talking to in the little film on a day in the life of the senator get pretty much that kind of a message from me. And then I try to tell them some of the important things to see here that have always had strange and effective appeal for me. Manifestly, one from Illinois almost invariably begins with a Lincoln Memorial. You recall that it was built by contributions of people from all of the 48 states of the Union. It is such an impressive memorial to the emancipator who was regarded by H.G. Wells as one of the 5 greatest personalities who ever graced the annals of mankind. And not far away, with a reflecting pool in between, is the great shaft to the father of our country, George Washington. It too has fascination for everybody. 555 feet high. Obviously, youngsters particularly like to go up to the top and survey the surrounding scene, for from it you can get such a splendid view of the nation's capital. Off to the right, not too very far, is the very fine Grecian memorial to Thomas Jefferson, beautifully done and reflected in the tidal basin. And then there are, of course, monuments and statues to so many, and I recur for one moment again to Lincoln, because the place where he passed away and the old museum, which is on the site of the old Ford Theater where he was assassinated, is here to be seen. And then across the blue Potomac, you'll find Arlington Cemetery, where is enshrined in memory our heroic dead. Down along the Potomac and along the Memorial Highway, you'll find Mount Vernon, where the father of our country lived. The broad acres and the fine estate is still there, and the old homestead is magnificently kept. Now, those are just some of the things that you see in Washington, and it doesn't include, of course, the Library of Congress, the nation's capital, the White House, the FBI fingerprint exhibit, which I always thought was extremely interesting, and a host of other things that will entrance the mind. And so I trust that you who may see this will have an opportunity to come to the nation's capital, because somehow it brings the history book to life, and it makes these things stand out in your mind as nothing else can do.
Senator Dirksen next meets with Richard Lloyd Jones, the librarian ambassador, and Dr. William Feeman of Chicago. He takes them to one of the senator's favorite shrines, the Lincoln Memorial. The senator is a recognized authority on Lincoln, and he reveals to his guests the intimate history of the rail splitter who saved the nation from internal strife and reunited our people, reestablishing principles laid down by our founding fathers. Yes, the senator from Illinois knows the virtues of a republican form of government, for he has seen in other lands around the globe the struggles of those seeking freedom and security. The past summer, in addition to his regular duties, Senator Dirksen, as a member of the Senate Appropriations Committee, was assigned to inspect our outposts of freedom. In Formosa, he conferred with Chiang Kai-shek and Madam Chiang. In Bangkok, before an imposing pagoda, the problems of another troubled spot were discussed. En route to Siam, the senator studied the military situation. In the Philippines, he met 2 old friends, former Senator Homer Ferguson of Michigan, presently ambassador to the Philippines, along with President Magsaysay. After his visit to the Lincoln Memorial with his guests, the senator is back on the Senate floor checking legislation of particular interest to Illinois. Then to the TV studio for his weekly radio and TV report to the folks back home. Let's join him for a moment as his report is interrupted by the ringing of the bells for a vote on the Senate floor.
So when one considers the most recent report by the economic advisors and those who gather up figures and statistics for the country, which indicate that 65.5 million people are presently employed, and in industry particularly at a rate that is the highest in the history of the country, this is indeed an indication of prosperity in the nation. I've just heard the bells, and I fancy it's time to go and respond to a roll call in the Senate chamber.
After the vote and the conclusion of the Senate session, Senator Dirksen is back in his office where the phones are still ringing and where the senator goes over the day's work which has been completed by his staff. Early in the evening, the senator arrives at an informal reception where Mrs. Dirksen is already in attendance. Here, the senator not only meets with his colleagues, but high government dignitaries as well. The solutions to many problems are found here in this less formal atmosphere than that of a senatorial office. Later in the evening, shortly before bedtime, a day in the life of the senator becomes more personal. Here, he visits with his daughter, her husband, and his grandson. Yes, the day in the life of the United States Senator is not an easy one. And as we leave our nation's capital, we realize that no one ever really sees all of Washington, D.C. For most of us, the darkness descends too soon on a day's journey. Even memories may be stilled by night's descent. But freedom and justice are not dimmed by nightfall. Instead, freedom becomes a garland of lights, brimming an immortal shrine, a bright sacrifice, or a shining deed. For this is where justice and freedom are furnished by the memory of our honored dead, where mankind's hopes glow eternal. Let us forever keep this the symbol of the land of the free and the home of the brave, a shining shield of liberty. For this is the heartbeat of a great nation, a great people striving upward in God's image for justice and freedom for all.